especially, like he'll be writing something, and then an hour later we'll see him in the gym just, like trying to memorize the choreography. And then after that, like he'll be doing like some weightlifting. So it's like really like, oh, all right, this is what Bob Odenkirk is.
I've come to terms with the fact that you don't have an average job.
Well, hi Timo. It's a pleasure talking.
Alejandro, nice to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you.
Mhm.
I just saw the trailer for the film and it looks amazing.
Oh,
Congratulations.
thank you. Thank you very much, Alejandro. Thank you.
I wanted to start off by asking you, this is your American film debut. You've talked about this before, and I'd love to hear about your experience working in the Hollywood studio system. How, in particular, did it shape your directing style on set?
Okay, so it is that's a good question, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, this will be my Hollywood debut, and I think it's very interesting in a sense that I'm such a spoiled director, like back in my home country in Indonesia, that usually it's more about like, yeah, I want this, I get it, I get it. I want that, I'll get that. Like so I think in this one there is a sense of collaboration that is kind of refreshing to me. It is a challenge, but it's also refreshing to really put down the hammer where, yeah, film is indeed a collaborative effort, and this is also my first time working with a second unit team, and I think I'm so used to doing everything by myself. So when you are kind of like working on a collaborative space where there's a second unit team, and like I'm working with a very great team led by a guy called Greg Rementer. He did a lot of the action for Bad Boys, the last Bad Boys. He did the action for the first Nobody. So, like it's really refreshing to kind of hear from other people like the ideas that we can achieve. Uh, because, like my film tend to be very dark, like like my film tend to be very dark and very violent. So I think with something like Nobody, where there's a fine line between, yes, it is still violent, it is still gritty, but at the same time, because a lot of it's also about family. So I think it's a good thing where whenever I get too dark, somebody's kind of like, like pulling me a bit away from it and saying, "Hey, you got to remember the our audience." Like so, it's a new and a refreshing experience. Yep.
I was actually going to ask you about that. You obviously have experience in the action genre, but
hmm
would you consider that the toughest part of making a movie like a sequel to Nobody, which is known for many things, but mainly for its practical approach when it comes to its action sequences and of course its themes about family?
hmm the toughest, I think, the technical execution is always hard, I think, but that doesn't necessarily make me nervous because like by now, I think like whenever there's something that is really technical and we try to sort of like find what's the solution, it's usually a fun challenge. I was definitely more nervous about like trying to be faithful to the first film in terms of like where is the character going right now? Like because if we approach this with the idea that like Hutch Mansell is still the same person from the first film, then I think we fail, like so there has to be an evolution about like, okay, like what is his problem right now, how does he solve it, and most of all the biggest challenge will be how do we get his family become more involved in his life, because when your father is a secret agent who kills people, like there must be some effect to the family, right? And we explore that in this film, and that's the biggest challenge for me.
Right.
Mhm.
I'm curious to chat with you about working with Bob Odenkirk, who not only returns to play his character, but is also credited as a writer in this film. What did you find most interesting about the whole experience of working with him?
Well, one thing for sure, like one thing that I do realize, Bob is a very serious person, you know. He's very serious about his craft. Uh, so, like when I, especially people like me who's a fan of like Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, you have this image in your head, like this is might be what Bob Odenkirk is as a person, and then you are completely wrong because he's a very serious person in a good way, because I think his seriousness is what makes this sort of film achievable, you know, because like we've seen action film where it led by a non-action guy before, you know, and it doesn't always work. But I
Mhm.
think with Bob, there's a certain approach that he takes where everything is all about discipline. You know, like, and look, even simple stuff like him uh constantly training, especially, you know, like he'll be writing something, and then an hour later we'll see him in the gym just, you know, like trying to memorize the choreography, and then after that, like, he'll be doing like some weightlifting. So it's like really like, oh, all right, this is what Bob Odenkirk is. And I think he kind of, you can tell now, like Bob Odenkirk, you know, like he's not resting, like he's moving along. Like, so after this film, like he has another film, and then he's doing the Broadway play. So you can learn a lot from a person like him. You know, like I by the end of it, let's just say I see him as a very militant uncle, you know. So yeah, and I like him. I like his ethics. Yeah.
That sounds amazing. Well, Timo, that I
Mhm.
think that is my time. Congratulations once again on this
Okay,
film.
thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Alejandro. Thank you.